Hey guys, Jordan from Precondo here. Today I want to talk about some of the worst advice I see consistently given by brokers to clients in the pre-construction industry. We're going to break down why I think it's bad advice and what you should do instead. So let's jump right into the video. So I've been browsing the Tick Tock recently, and I'm losing brain cells by the minute. And this is one of the stranger pieces of advice that I am seeing from realtors. It is sell your pre-construction condos a year or two after completion because new buildings appreciate faster than old buildings, and as your building ages, your appreciation will lag the broader market. And it's true to a degree, but this advice is pretty bad advice. Now, we all know that people prefer new condos to old condos, right? They like new finishes, they like new amenities, and of course, as a building ages, maintenance fees tend to increase. And so at a certain point, yes, older buildings do appreciate a little bit slower than newer buildings. However, you have to actually do the math on how much slower are they appreciating and what does it actually cost me to liquidate a condo in my portfolio and then pivot that capital into a new condo, because that's really the question. Am I going to make more money by trading condos every 5 or 6 years, or am I going to make more money by just holding a good building over a long period of time? So I've pulled up a couple of quick examples here. You've got one Balmoral, which is 24 years old. And as you can see, in 2014, it was trading at an average of $590 a foot. Today, it is at $1,144 a foot. Here you have 480 Queens Quay. This one's 34 years old, King's Landing. 2014 average of $477 a foot, 2022 average of over $1,000 a foot. So again, no slouch in the appreciation department, but you can see on this chart here that it is trading a little bit cheaper than the neighborhood average. And then finally, I have an example in my backyard here, Palace Place in Humber Bay. Again, you can see that yes, the blue line on the chart being the neighborhood average per square foot selling value, you can see that the neighborhood has appreciated quicker than Palace Place because Palace Place is old with really high maintenance fees, but still it's doing quite well. It's not like it's losing value, right? It's still appreciating. It's just a little bit slower than the market average. So this is one of those pieces of advice that even clients repeat back to me from time to time. And I think it's bad advice because people need to do their math. They need to do their homework a little bit. So if we look at this and we say, okay, on year one, you acquire a pre-construction condo, your first condo. We know that pre-construction sells for more than resale, right? So you're going to pay a 10% premium over the current market value of that unit, let's call it. Now, let's say the building completes in 5 years. So you close on condo number one, you're going to pay your development charges, your legal fees, your education levies, all your closing costs, your land transfer tax, which is of course huge in Toronto. And then let's say you rent it for 2 years. So you rent it out for 2 years, you get your $24,000 in HST back from the government for renting it over a year period. And now it is time to sell your condo because you're afraid, oh, it's going to start appreciating at 0.5% lower than new buildings in the near future. So I need to dump this thing. So now you're going to sell this condo, you're going to dump it because you're afraid that it's going to start appreciating a little bit less than brand new buildings across the street. So you're going to pay your real estate commissions, and then more importantly, you're going to pay capital gains on the profits that you make, right? And now, of course, you're left with all this cash that you've pulled out of your investment. And so it's time to decide, well, what's my next play with all of this money? And inevitably, your broker's going to tell you, well, now it's time to do this all over again. Let's buy another pre-construction condo. So once again, you're going to acquire condo number two. And again, it's pre-construction. So you're going to pay a premium over the resale market value. We know this. Well, fast forward another 5 years. Now it's time to close on condo number two. So again, you're going to pay your closing costs, the biggest of which will be land transfer tax. Now we repeat the process, and 2 years later, you sell condo number two. Again, you are paying commissions, you are paying capital gains, and you are acquiring another condo because what am I going to do with all this cash? So to me, this advice doesn't actually align with most clients' goals, but it does align very well with realtor incentives because you take what could have been one commission event, the purchase back in the day, and you turn it into multiple. So you've got the purchase, then you have the resale, now you have another condo purchase, and so on and so forth. So to me, and I've put little piggy banks there on the chart so you can tell every time a realtor makes some money, this is really what you're doing is you're wiping away your equity in commissions, fees, and taxes. If you look at just the commission and you assume an average of 3% commission each time, you're wiping away 15% of your equity over that 14-year period in just real estate commissions. And you can go ahead and triple that number when you account for closing costs and capital gains tax. This is what I think it should look like. If you buy into a good building in a good area and the building doesn't have any major deficiencies, that you don't see maintenance fees skyrocketing, it's well managed, you should just buy and hold the thing because the math on that obviously works a lot better than liquidating, paying taxes, commissions, etc. over and over and over again. And so this is realistically what your timeline should look like. It's fascinating to me how many people want to day trade real estate. And it's like the most successful people in real estate they always tell you the same thing. Never sell. But for some reason, when people get into pre-construction, they are obsessed with the idea of flipping these things very quickly. And I know based on math and based on looking at historical returns and buildings and units my clients have bought, that it is far more beneficial to you in 99 out of 100 cases to just hold the thing over a longer period of time. Next up, we have only buy pre-construction at Platinum VIP day one pricing, because that's where you'll get the lowest prices, the best incentives. And that is kind of true to a degree. And what I mean by that is you will get the lowest price in a given building at day one, right? Prices will go up over time depending on how they hit sales targets and how things are going. So here's what the prices looked like at Scout Condos by Greywood in the Junction area. So you have the sort of VIP platinum phases here, and then they went into public sales as inventory started to sell out. They would have released some more units during this time, because you got to remember a lot of builders don't actually release the entire building right on launch. So when you hear 100% sold out, sometimes they just mean 100% sold out of what we released. 6 months later, there's often new inventory, new releases that come to that building. And of course, over public sales, you see a couple of price hikes. And this chart is based on per square foot price on a one bedroom. And then, of course, you can see very clearly where the developer hit their sales target in order to get construction financing, because prices went up largely there. So really what you're seeing is, if you're dead set on buying Scout Condos because that's exactly the building you want, then you're most likely best off to buy on day one. Just makes sense. And we all know that developments tend to launch more expensive than the last in the neighborhood, right? So the blue line here is the per square foot launch price of a one bedroom in Etobicoke at all of the launches in Etobicoke 2017 through 2021. You can see that the price only went in one direction. But my point here is that if you're in the pre-construction market looking to invest today, then what happened in the pre-construction launch market yesterday is irrelevant to you, and what might happen tomorrow is also irrelevant to you. All that matters is, where am I getting the best deal now? I also added the orange line for the one bedroom price per square foot of Valhalla condos over that period of time. And as you can see, the price increases at Valhalla didn't keep up with the new launch pricing. So while people were lining up out the door for 36 Zora, for example, you could go pick up a one bedroom unit at Valhalla for $100 a square foot less. Here's another example of that. Pinnacle Toronto East. Here is a list of the one bedroom and den units that they had available in October of 2019. So in October of 2019, you could get a 600 square foot one bedroom unit there for $455,000, which at the time was an insane deal. But they weren't a new launch. It was lingering inventory. As a result, nobody was really promoting it, and many buyers didn't even know it existed. But at the same time, launches in the general vicinity were far more expensive and had lineups out the door and hundreds or thousands of worksheets, despite this objectively on paper being a better deal. So why does this happen? Well, it happens because of psychology, right? You have to remember that a market isn't always rational. And as much as we like to think of ourselves as immune to things like scarcity and urgency, as someone who has a digital marketing background and has sold tens of millions of dollars of supplements and hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate, can tell you 99% of the population is not immune to scarcity and urgency, and fear of missing out drives buying decisions like you wouldn't believe. So what happens on launch? Well, you've got a room filled with brokers and clients. You hear that there's 400 worksheets in already. It's the first day of launch. You want to feel like you're getting in on something, and so you're likely to submit a worksheet. And this is part of the reason why that advice exists, because during the platinum phase of a condo launch, you can only go through a select handful of brokers, myself being one of them. And so that advice works very, very well for me, because I become a bottleneck. I become a means of access. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you're going to get the best deal. Is it where you're going to get the most exciting deal and feel like you got something others missed out on? Of course, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get the best price there. Finally, I still hear this one today. I can't believe that this one is still as prevalent as it is, but people still tell me that pre-construction condos are a better deal or they are cheaper than resale condos. And look, I'm not saying that resale condos are a better investment than pre-construction or vice versa. I inherently believe in the pre-construction model, and I think there's a time and place for both vehicles. But with that being said, the idea that pre-construction condos are cheaper than resale couldn't be further from the truth. Here's data from Urban Nation going all the way back to 2010. And you can see that new release units have generally been more expensive than resale for a long time in Toronto and in the GTA in general. And again, this isn't to say that this makes pre-construction condos a bad idea. They still work out quite well, or historically they have worked out quite well. Here's an example of newly registered condo units in 2020, their appraisal value versus their purchase value. So if you look at their average purchase, $415,000, 43% of appreciation on the appraisal value of $595. So, if you closed on a unit in 2020, did quite well. And if you closed on that unit in 2020, you probably bought it in 2015 or so. And in 2015, pre-construction prices were still more than resale. Of course, these days, the gap is wider than it was back then, but it still wasn't cheap back then. In my advice, and I have a longer form video, I have an hour video of everything you need to know about pre-construction. I will link it in the description. But in my advice, what it really comes down to is you want to look for 3 factors. The developer, or who you are buying from, essentially. So do they have a track record of developing lots of condos, delivering on promises that they make? And of course, what does the build quality of those buildings look like today? Number 2, of course, super important, location. Right? So where is the building located? What is the future premise? What is the thesis for that location? Is there a lot coming to that neighborhood that makes it a good investment? Is there transit coming or existing transit that makes it a smart investment? Or on the flip of there's a lot coming to the neighborhood argument, maybe it's a very scarce neighborhood in terms of bringing new supply. And so you're not going to see a lot of competing buildings, but there's a large demand. And of course, finally, you have price. So you have, the developer, the who, the location, the where, and the what. So what are you getting for your money, and how does that stack up compared to resale buildings across the street? Something I find a lot of brokers do is, on day one, they'll sell a couple of units, and then a week later, the developer will increase the price $40K, and they'll say, to their clients, you just made $40,000. Congratulations. The reality is you didn't make anything, right? Because your unit is not complete. It's not tangible. You don't have a title to anything. And if you bought at a 15% premium to resale, well, the resale market is the intrinsic value of your unit. And the resale market doesn't care that the developer just increased the price $40K. So you didn't make anything. You just saved $40K by not buying today versus last week. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because a lot of developers love to say, I made my client $60K in a weekend. You didn't do anything. Congratulations, pat yourself on the back, but you didn't do anything. So like I said, if you're looking for a longer form video on everything you need to know about pre-construction, link is below, and I will see you guys next video.